Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Today I'm going to make for you a complete meal. We're going to have a meat dish, a side dish, and possibly a dessert. We'll see how this goes. So the first thing we're going to do, now the thing with this is you want to cook things in stages. You want things that take longer to cook. Obviously you cook that first, so everything is ready at the same time. So if your chicken takes an hour, but your potatoes only takes 20 minutes, cook the chicken till it's almost done. The last 20 minutes of that cooking time, start your vegetables or whatever you're going to have. Today we're going to be making maple glazed chicken. This is a new recipe. I've not used it before, but it sounded yummy. And for my side dish, we're going to make skillet noodle pizza. This I've made many times before. My kids love it. So we're going to start the chicken first. We have a skillet here that's warm with some oil in it. And what you do is you take your chicken and chicken breast, skinless, boneless chicken breast. You could probably use any cut of chicken you like, but this is what the recipe called for, and I have some. You cube it up, and you pat it dry, and you season it with salt and pepper. So now we're going to put it in a skillet, and you leave it. You don't touch it. You leave it on this one side to cook for 5 minutes. So we're going to put that in the skillet. We're going to set the timer, and we're going to leave it alone. Now while that's cooking, I'm going to start on the skillet noodle pizza. Now what you want is to have 2 packages of Ramon noodles. You don't want the seasoning mix. You just boil the noodles. I've already done this. You boil them until they're done and drain them really well. Into my other skillet I have over here, I'm going to heat it up. And you put the noodles in the bottom of the skillet. So it's called Skillet Noodle Pizza. Your noodles are your crust for your pizza. So we're going to let that pan get warm. And for the toppings, it's any kind of pizza topping you like. I have some ham and some bacon and some shredded cheese. That's what I'm using today. I didn't plan ahead to make this. It was a kind of spur of the moment thing, so I didn't buy pepperoni. You can use whatever you've got on hand. Slice up a hot dog and throw it on if you want. Whatever toppings you like for pizza, that's what can go on it. There's no hard and fast rule. It's whatever you want. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the noodles in the pan. And you spread them out, but you want them like an even layer, but you don't want it too thick, too thin. You just put them all in the pan, and they're going to just sit there and cook for a few minutes. It takes about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm just going to bring it over here and show you. There. You just spread them out flat like that in the pan. And it takes about, 4 or 5 minutes maybe to cook those. And when they get nice and crispy and brown on the bottom, then we'll add our toppings. So we're going to go back. I almost went to stir that chicken. It's such a habit that I almost wanted to stir it. You don't stir the chicken. Grab me a wooden spoon here for when it is time to do it. So what I also have here is I've also grated my cheese for the pizza, for the skillet top pizza. I've cut up my meat, and I've got some Italian seasoning. You want some of that. And I opened the can of tomato sauce. Again, it's any kind of sauce you like. Whatever your family likes, that's what you use. It's nothing that can't be changed or altered. The amounts of the ingredients should stay the same, but whatever. Just like this. If you don't want to do chicken, I don't know, you can use pork, I suppose. Maple glazed pork would taste very good. So I've grated my cheese, I've opened my sauce, I've measured out my maple syrup and my vinegar for the chicken recipe. I've diced my apple and my onion because that'll be my next step for that. So what you do with this, it calls for chicken cut into large chunks, salt, apples cored and cut into wedges, 1 onion cut up, some seasoning. I'm going to use the Italian seasoning. It calls for sage. I happen to be out of sage at the moment, so I'm not going to use it. Half a cup of chicken broth, 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup, and 1/4 of a cup of vinegar. So you pat the chicken dry, which I did, and season it, and you put it for 5 minutes undisturbed. Then you turn over the chicken, you add your apples and onion and spices, and you cook until the chicken is brown on the bottom, 4 to 5 minutes. You put the chicken on a plate and cook the rest of everything 2 minutes more. So you kind of got to take your chicken. Another tip for you to know is that when you're cooking chicken like this, you want to make sure all the chunks are relatively the same size. So they all cook together. They all cook the same. Smaller chunks obviously going to cook bigger. And I'm going to turn my skillet noodles down because it's steaming pretty good here. Okay, they're doing good. They're not quite brown. You can just lift it up with a spatula, and you can tell if they're done. It doesn't take long. There, you just take your spatula and if it lifts up and they're still falling apart, they're not done yet. You want a good solid crust on the bottom. So my timer is still set at 1 minute. It's cooking down. So now after this chicken, like I said, we're gonna, okay. And I've also got my chicken broth. That was another thing. I do have half a cup of chicken broth ready and waiting. Almost forgot that. It's right there. So we seasoned it now. In about 30 seconds, we're going to turn the chicken. We're going to add the apples and onions and spices, and we're going to cook until the chicken is brown on the bottom, another 4 or 5 minutes. Again, it's just judgment. You have to decide, to flip it over and look. Then we take the chicken out, put that on a plate, and cook the rest of everything for 2 more minutes. And then we're going to make a glaze. So let's just get back to this. So, all right. I'm going to check my noodles once more because you don't want them burnt. You just want them nicely brown. And they're getting there. I did turn my heat down so they didn't go too fast. So we're just going to... And there's the timer to tell me my chicken is done. So with my spatula, I'm going to flip my chicken pieces. Just scoop them up and turn them over. Just like that. You'll know they're all turned over properly when all the browned edges are on top, because they got nice and brown because we put them in a hot skillet with some oil. Alright, so there we got that all turned. A couple more pieces here. Little stubborn guys decided to hide on me. Turn them over. Make sure they're all spread out evenly in the pan. You don't want to have any one on top of each other so they don't cook. Because then, the ones on the bottom are going to cook extra and the ones on top are not going to cook. A couple more little devils there that didn't turn. There. Alright. So, now you can see that they're all turned. They're all evenly browned. They're almost browned. Like that. They're all turned over. There's no more pink showing. That's what you want. So now to that we're going to add two apples that have been cut, peeled, cut, and cored, and cut into wedges. Just like this. Let me show you that better. There. Just into wedges. We're going to put those in the pan, just evenly spread them out. And I've got a small onion that is chopped. It did call for shallots. I don't have shallots. I never buy shallots. It's basically just a small onion. So you just take a small onion and you cut it. So now we're going to put that in the pan. Give it a little stir. Get those onions and apples mixed in there a little bit. Kind of on the bottom of the pan a little. And we're going to leave that alone for another 4 or 5 minutes until it's brown. So I'm going to set the timer for 4 and see what happens. Now back to my skillet, noodle skillet. Oh, look at that. It is perfect. I'm going to show you. I'm going to lift up my pan and lift it up. And there you see, whoops, there you see how nicely browned it is right there. That's your pizza crust. So we're going to put that back over there. So now you want to turn the heat way down to almost low. And to that, we're going to put, after you do that, you spread the sauce evenly over it, over the noodles. I'm just going to pour the pasta sauce on there. And we're going to take a spoon and just spread it out so it covers everything. Hear that sizzle. You don't want it sizzling too much because, this part of it is just heating the top and melting your cheese and stuff, so you want it to be fairly low. So there, my sauce is on, and this is what it looks like on the top now. There's your ramen noodles covered with spaghetti sauce. You can use pizza sauce, you can use pasta sauce, whatever you like. Just regular tomato sauce and season it. It's your choice. And to that, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of Italian seasoning all around it. You can use whatever seasoning you like. If you don't want this, you can avoid it. It's whatever your taste is. And And then I'm going to put my bacon and my ham on it. Spread that out evenly. I cut up 2 strips of bacon in little chunks and put it on. And it'll brown nicely. Who doesn't like bacon on pizza? Come on, right? You can put anything. You can add red peppers. I have done that in the past. You can put the pepperoni. You can put just pepperoni and cheese if you like, just bacon, ham, whatever pizza toppings, pineapple. When you order a pizza, think about what you get on it. Olives, and you can put whatever you want on it. So there's the meat. Again, I'll bring my tablet over and show you. That's what it looks like now with your bacon and your ham and the sauce. So now I'm going to put both, I got white and orange cheddar. I'm going to sprinkle that on there. This is quite an easy dish, and it's something different. It's a change from potatoes and rice and noodles. I mean, it's kind of noodle based, but it's different noodles. So we're going to put that, put all our cheese over top of that. Take our plate out of the way. Alright, so then we have to, I'm going to show you what it looks like now, and I'll show you what it looks like done. There it is there. Now you have to cover this. So I'm going to get a lid, and you have to cover this for about 4 minutes or so until your cheese is all melted. So there. I have another skillet that I used on top because my biggest top pan won't fit. So you can improvise. Yeah, just put a skillet on top of a skillet upside down. There it is. All right, and now our chicken is just about done with the last 4 minutes. I'll get a plate out because we have to take out the chicken in a minute. I'm just going to check a few pieces to make sure that they're browned on the bottom. And they pretty much are. You can turn this heat up just a little bit. So I'm gonna give them another minute because they're not really browned enough. There's some pieces that are, and some pieces I'm gonna give them a little stir here. And we're gonna give them another minute. I see a few raw pieces. They're still gonna cook a little more. So if there's a piece or two that's a little raw, it's okay because there's still cooking time left. Because we're going to add the chicken back into the pan after, and it'll have a chance to cook some more. So I'm going to give those another minute. My timer's at 40 seconds, so I'm going to stop that, and then I'm going to put 2 more minutes back on the timer. Okay, sorry, I had to go let the dog out. We have our beautiful chocolate lab, and he goes out in our backyard to do what he's got to do. Okay, so we're going to give this a couple more minutes. There we go. And now we got our skillet noodle pizza done. That's done. There's your side dish. The maple glazed chicken. So, you cook it until the chicken, and we put the chicken on the plate and cook it. So then while the rest of it's cooking, I'm going to make the broth. Or the glaze, rather, sorry. So I'm going to get a bowl. Ready? Just scoop my camera over a little bit here. Bring it down. I've got it high up so you can see my pans. Now I'm going to bring it down so you can see the bowl. There we go. That's a little bit too high. A little fiddly till you get it right. That's okay. There we are. We're going to use the bowl there. I don't have an actual camera. I use my tablet for my videos, so yeah. Okay, back her up a little bit. We don't want it that close up. Okay, so for the glaze, actually, you know what? Before I make the glaze, I'm going to go ahead and take out the chicken. I'm going to scoop it up, and it says to keep everything else, the apple and the onions in there. So we're just going to go ahead and take this out. And if you get a piece of an apple or a piece of an onion, just put it back in. Go ahead and go through the next part. So we're going to take this out of the skillet. So this is the first time I've ever made for you. I usually make separate things, but today, nice Sunday meal. I this will be aired tomorrow on my channel, so y'all stay tuned for it and look for it. I'm going to upload this on Monday. And I just realized that other than the fact that I said a Sunday meal, you wouldn't even know what day I made it, so wouldn't even know if I didn't put it on as soon as I finished the video, would it? I hope you all enjoy my videos so far. I've got a fair amount on there. Look through them. Comment on what you like, what you don't like. Let me know what you would like to see. If there's, certain dietary restrictions you have. I mean, I have never made gluten-free stuff. Don't know much about that. But if it's something there's an interest of, y'all can let me know and I'll look into doing it. Because I'm going to keep my viewers happy. Alright, so I've got my chicken out of the pan. Just the timer, just right. Okay, I'm going to turn it down a little because I don't want the apples and the onions to burn. It just says to keep them in there for a little bit longer. Okay. And before I make the glaze, I'm going to show you that the Skillet Noodle Pizza is done. What you do is you cut this like in a wedge shape, like you would a pizza kind of. Or, just cut it up. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Now, how yummy does that look? So you have ramen noodles as your base, pizza sauce, spaghetti sauce, whatever pizza toppings you have. I have bacon and ham, and then you put your cheese on top. Cover it for about 2 minutes until the cheese is all nice and melted and yummy. Cut it in a wedge, and there you have it. I will show you after I'm all done. I will plate everything and show you what everything looks like on the plate. Okay, a little pause in the action there. Let the dog back in the house. He barks when he's done. Okay, so now we're going to make the glaze. For the glaze, we take our chicken broth, which is a half a cup. Give that a little stir. I did not have store-bought chicken broth, so what I did was put a bouillon cube in some hot water, melted the bouillon cube, and there you have chicken stock. Same thing. There's none of the additives left too. I'm going to give it a stir because it's been sitting for a bit. I want to make sure it's all melted through. So we have a half a cup of chicken broth in the bowl. And we put the syrup and the vinegar. So 1/4 of a cup of vinegar and 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup. And vinegar and a half a teaspoon of salt. That goes in. Alright, then we're going to give that a little bit of a stir. Mix it all in. Now this goes into the skillet. And then we're going to boil it. So now I have to turn my skillet way up. I'm using my electric skillet for this one. I have to turn it way up because we want this to boil. And then we want it to reduce down about 3/4. We want to take about 1/4 of it away. So we're going to pour that in there with the apples and the onion. Okay, move the bowl out of the way. Flip over the dog while I do it. So that's going to take a couple of minutes. It is boiling right away. My pan was pretty hot. So it doesn't take long to reduce it. You just have to keep watch and keep, give it a stir every so often. What's nice about doing this is that all the little bits on the bottom of your pan, this is kind of like a deglazer. Give it a little scrape, and all those little bits of yumminess, the chicken that was cooking and if an onion stuck or whatever, it all scraped off the bottom of the pan, and all those flavors are now going to be mixed in with your chicken and your apples and onions. Everything's going to be very flavorful. So there, we're going to just give that a couple minutes to boil down. And then you put the chicken back in there. Let me see where we've turned, and you cook it for another 2 to 3 minutes, and that's it. That is your main protein. That's your main dish. So that's boiling away nicely. I'm going to move all my extra dishes out of the way. away here. Did all this. This is the nice thing. While you're waiting, you can have this all cleaned up. You can get everything else out of your way and make your workstation clean. You want to keep your work area clean. You don't want to have everything all over the place, because then it's just, especially when you're making more than one recipe at a time, because it kind of just gets confusing. Separate yourself, put your dirty dishes aside, keep your counters nice and clean. And there, that is reducing very nicely. It's boiling away there. Let's see if I can get a close-up shot of that for you as soon as I have it. There, that's our apples and our onion. And you see how nicely it's boiling away. That's the maple syrup and the vinegar and the chicken broth. And that is just about done. So to that, we're going to put our chicken back in there. Use up my camera again so we can see what's going on here. There we go, a little higher. Okay, that's one too high. I'm trying to get that. There we go. Tip it a little. That's what I got to do. There you go. Perfect. So now it is deglazed and it is reduced down just right. You give it one more stir, loosen up everything, get everything all mixed in. And now we're going to put the chicken back in there. Like so. Give it a good mix because you want all that broth and that maple syrup and everything all nicely mixed into this chicken. All the pieces want to get some flavor going on in there. You don't want to have one piece that tastes just like boring chicken and one piece that tastes like maple chicken. There we go. Alrighty, so we're going to leave that go for another couple of minutes just to make sure everything is coated and that all the chicken is cooked through. There might have been a piece or two that hadn't finished cooking all the way when I took it all out. I did make some of the chunks a little bigger than some of the other ones, which I noticed, which that's a big no-no. You want to try to make them as close to the same size as you can. Alright, so I'm going to let that go for a few minutes. Even it out. You want it nice and thin layer, single layer, so everything joins the party here, you know, all the apples and the onion and all the chicken, everything is all getting in there together. There, nice single layer. So we're going to put the timer on for 2 minutes. Okay, and we're going to let that go. Now I've got to decide what I would like to make for dessert. I'll show you this plated first, and then we'll think about what we're going to make for dessert. Maybe some cupcakes. They're pretty straightforward and easy. I might make some, you know what, I come to think of it, I might make some tarts. I think I'm going to make some berry tarts. Cupcakes are alright. They're quick and easy, but I've got a lot of strawberries and blueberries in the fridge, so I'm going to make some tarts. Those are pretty easy too. I'll show you how to do that. Cut it like this. Very easy to cut that skillet noodle pizza. You just cut it in V-shape like you would a slice of pizza. Put that on the plate, just like that. And give this a little bit of a stir. There we go. Oh, you need to have smell-o-vision. Somebody out there, please, invent smell-o-vision. You can see it, but let me tell you, the smell coming from this kitchen. Oh, I am making my supper quite early. It was only in the afternoon, but we have very, very high-powered winds right now where we are in Ontario. It's up to 100-kilometer-an-hour winds, and they are warning people that it could cause power outages. So I want to get this all made, so at least if the power is back, if it does go out, hopefully it'll come back on and we can just kind of put this in the microwave or the oven and heat it up quick enough. Just have it all cooked and ready to go. Okay, so that looks so good. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that and put it on. Timer's done. I'm going to put a little scoop on the plate. Just to show you what dinner's going to look like tonight. Get a couple of pieces of the apple, because you want to have that on there. Okay, so here is what's for supper. Skillet Noodle Pizza and maple glazed chicken. Look at that. How yummy does that look? And there it is. Now I'm going to put you on pause for a few minutes while I clear this stuff away and get everything out I need for the tarts to show you how to make those. Be back in a few. Okay, I'm back. I've got everything out I need. We're going to make a blueberry and strawberry tarts, little mini pies basically. So what we're going to start with is we're going to cut our strawberries. I'm going to take the tops off, and we're just going to roughly chop them, you know, not real tiny, but small enough so you don't get like big chunks of strawberries in your bites of pie crust. We're going to cut these up pretty good, and we're going to, you know, I don't know, I'm going to make probably a dozen or so. There's no really amounts. You just kind of make your filling and put it in, and I mean, if you need a little bit more, you can take a minute and add some more. And if you need a little less, well, then you can just put them in the fridge and use them for ice cream topping, or, you know, make jam. I don't know, whatever you want to do with them. So we're going to do, because these are pretty good sized strawberries, so I'm going to do 3. I got them cut up relatively small. You know, you want them pretty small. Again, like I said, you don't want big chunks. You don't want whole slices of strawberries. So there's your strawberries. Now the blueberries are already pretty small, so you might just want to half them. Just cut them in half. If they're real big, cut them in 4s. But for these ones, these look all pretty same. Again, you want everything to be relatively the same size, because it all works out better when you're cooking things. We are going to cook this filling just a little. We're going to put this in a bowl, in a pan, saucepan, with a little tiny bit of sugar, because these are very sweet. You want a little bit though. You want to add it up, and then we're just going to reduce them down just to kind of soften them, because these are not pre-cooked. You're only going to put the tart shells in the oven just long enough to cook the pastry. So you want your fruit to be nice and soft. You don't want it to be fresh out of the fridge, cold fruit. So we're going to start with this much, and we're going to see how many tarts this gets me. And I'm going to put that aside. So I'm going to pour this into my saucepan here. I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of sugar, and I'm going to just cook them down. Cook them just a little bit. Actually, I think I might add a few more blueberries. Now that it's all in the pan here, it's not looking like there's very much, because you want a lot of filling in each. At least I do. I like a lot of filling in my tarts. I don't want to have, I don't want to go and bite into a tart and get nothing but pastry shell. You want a good amount of fruit in each one. You want nice and full. You want them all the way full up. You can top these with another layer of crust, or you can do a lattice work if you want to get real inventive, which is just maybe by cutting strips of pie dough and then crisscrossing them back and forth, under over method. Or you can put some whipped cream on it. Whatever you want for topping. It's one of those real versatile type recipes. Now this is just something I'm doing off the top of my head. I've got books that tell how to do tarts and how to do fruit pies, and you know, I just wing it. I mean, the one I like best is for fresh fruit, but it's fresh fruit and cream. I'm not going to take the time to make pastry cream. That is very involved. So we're going to throw in a few more blueberries. And we're going to throw in a couple of more strawberries. Because it didn't really look, on the cutting board it seemed like a lot because they were crowded on to the board, but it didn't really seem like very much once I got it into the pan. So while those are cooking down a little bit, I'll show you how to make the crust. I do believe I've done pie crust before. It's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy thing. It's basically flour and salt and water. That's it. You never, and butter, sorry, butter, definitely butter. You don't want to overwork pie crust. It'll get dry and be not very nice. It won't be a nice flaky crust. It'll be hard and dry when you go to eat it. So there, I've added some more strawberries and some more berries. I'm going to turn my stove way down. I don't want these to cook to death or to burn. I just want to get them nice and soft. You can throw in an apple in here if you like. Any kind of berries that you happen to have on hand. This is what I have. I have some strawberries and I have blueberries. You can put any kind of berries, whatever you like. Raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. You can put one, just stick to one type of berry, or you can combine them. It doesn't really matter. You can do very, very versatile, very easy to change up. Okay, so now I'll move this out of the way and get my bowl here. And now I'm going to make the crust. So for the crust, I want, well, let me get my proper measuring cup here. I'm going to do 2 cups of flour. As again, this is one of those kind of things you're not really sure with one recipe how much you're going to get out of how many tarts you're going to get. Like you could make a recipe for a 1 crust pie, but when you're cutting it for smaller things, you might need more, you might need a little bit less, you might need a little more. So I'm going to just do, so this is like a 2 crust pie. So there's 2 cups of flour, and to that we're going to use 3/4 of a cup of butter. Put that in there. And you take your 2 knives. Now I do have a pastry blender. Actually, I'll use that. I'll get that out. So this is a pastry blender. That's what that looks like. It's just a handle with some wire on the bottom. You can do the 2 knives, crisscrossing the 2 knives, but I happen to have one of these. And before I start mixing it, I'm going to put in my salt. And a teaspoon of salt. Salt acts as a binder. It keeps everything together. So the salt goes in. So now you just, with the pastry blender it's a little quicker than with the knife. You just turn your bowl and go round and round, tap it off every so often, and you just keep going around and around until your butter is all chopped up and incorporated in with the flour, and it looks like little pea-sized clumps of flour. This is very easy with this. I mean, these things, you can buy these at the dollar store. You don't have to go, I mean, to a kitchen store. You can get them at Walmart for, $5 or $6. And if you make a lot of pies or tarts, this is handy to have. It's one of those kitchen gadgets that I do recommend. I don't usually buy a lot of things if I can use other things, like the 2 knives, for instance. But I bought one. I saw it. I bought it at the dollar store, and look how quick and easy that is. You got your nice dough all done. So now to that, we're going to add cold water, very, very cold water. What you do with the water is you add it just a little bit at a time. Now I've got a 1/2 cup here, but I'm going to add it. I'm just going to give this a stir first, just to make sure all of the flour and the butter is incorporated together. And it's beautiful. It's all chunked right through. You see how nicely that looks? All nice and evenly little chunks. Okay. So we're going to put a little tiny bit, about 1/4 of this, and you stir it around. You want it to be wet enough so everything sticks together, but you don't want it to be over wet. Then you have to add more flour. If you have to add more flour, then it's going to dry your crust out. So, all right, now I just chopped my berries off. They smell delicious. Now we're going to add a little more water. You can always add more, but once you put too much in, you can't take it away, because then you have to add more dry ingredients. And again, if you add too much in pie crust, it just makes it dry, and it won't be a flaky, lovely pie crust. You just keep stirring it. I'm using a fork. You want to use a fork to incorporate it all in. And now just a little bit more water. It's coming together. Once it starts holding its shape, when you can take it and squeeze it and it doesn't fall apart like that right now, you see how it's falling apart? It's not enough. There's not enough water. So we're just going to keep adding a little bit more. I think it's probably going to take full half a cup. I'm just going to do about a quarter of it at a time though, just to make sure. And we're going to give that another, no, I can tell by looking at it, without even feeling it together, that it's not done, not ready. So we're going to put the rest of it in. This is kind of more like eyeballing it. You just know after you've done it a few times. You can follow the recipes exactly. Again, some of the recipes though, they just, it just doesn't, that's that cook's perspective for it. Now that's what you want to see. You see when you take it and you can make it into a ball and it stays just like that, that's what you want. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and roll this out on my counter in a little bit of flour. There's that old Dino Brody there. He just is uploading a video right now that he did a fortnight earlier. And we'll make sure to go on that and check it out. And then check out mine. You can watch his video while you're having supper. So there you go. You're all going to be all set tonight. So we're going to take this dough out and put it on the counter. All there. And you want to just knead it like a little bit just to make sure everything is all incorporated. You don't want any loose bits. After you do it 2 or 3, 4 times, if you see any loose bits still on your counter, just scrape them off and throw them away, because if they're not incorporated after, say, I would do this no more than 10 times, because that's going to dry your dough out. See, I have a little bit left over. Put it back in the bowl, get it out of your way. Well, there we go. Now we're going to roll this out. This is a nice soft dough. This is what you want. Now you turn it into a circle, make it into a nice circle and flatten it, and circle, hold it with the palms of your hands like this, and push it down and make sure it stays in a circle. You want it in rounds. If you were making an actual pie, this is what you would do. You would make sure it was a circle. So now we're going to dust a rolling pin with flour, and we're going to roll it out. Now you don't want them real thick. You want it about the same thickness as you would for a pie. I mean, you don't want, it wants an inch of crust, right? You don't want that much crust on your desserts. So we're just going to roll it out. This is a pretty soft dough, so it's rolling fairly easy. Just keep turning. Roll it towards you and away from you. Turn it. So every part of the dough. There are some cooks that say, and some pie bakers that say you should put this in a disc and seal it and put it in the refrigerator for an hour to let it chill and let everything, the butter all work well in there. I've tried that. I don't really find any difference. I just go ahead and make it. So instead of making a one big pie, I'm going to take a large glass that I have. Again, I have a gazillion cookie cutters, but I don't have a round one. I don't have a circle one. I mean, it's one that's a circle, but it's shaped like a wreath, so you might get an imprint of a Christmas wreath. You don't want to use that. So that's about right. You want it about 1/8 of an inch thick. There, and that's really all it took. You see how nice and lovely that looks. So I'm going to get my glass. Now see, this is what I use, just a regular drinking glass. You see the circumference of it is just right for my pie tart. And this is what I'm using, little mini tinfoil tart pans. You can put these in a pie tin. You can make them bigger, smaller. Well, you don't want to get much smaller than that. But so now what you do is just go ahead and cut it out. So if you want a dozen, and if you want crust on top, then you make 24 circles. If you want just the fruit on top, then you only need 12. So we're going to see how many I get out of this. I'll make as many as I can for this video, and then I'll just continue on making them for later on for the rest of the family dinner. So there, you just drop the circle into the tart pan and just push it a little bit, push it down. You want it all the way up the sides, right up to the edge. And that's what it should look like, all the way down. So to that we're going to add Well, I'm going to drain my berries because there's a lot of liquid here. We don't want any, you don't want too much liquid. I think I'll just strain it a little bit. You don't want, you can have a little bit of the liquid so it keeps your pie crust, your tarts moist, but you don't want too much to make it a watery pie. We're going to drain these. Oh, that Dino Brody getting in my way here. Listen, mister, I know it's Sunday.
Are you using this knife?
No, I know it's Sunday and you don't have a lot to do, but you know, get out of the kitchen unless you're going to cook. Okay.
I'm kind of cooking my fish food.
Oh, you're cooking your fish food. Okay. He's making fish food. He can come up with his own recipe for his fish food. Okay. So there, I drained the berries. So that's what they look like. All nice and yummy looking. So you take about a tablespoon or so. Let's try a tablespoon. Oh, look at that. That was perfect. Just a titch more than a tablespoon. So you put a tablespoon in each one and you fill it. Dino Brody, what do you think? Should I put a top on these, a lattice top or another top, or should I leave them just like that?
Another top.
Another top? Like the whole round thing or the crisscrossy top? Like this? Yeah, Dino Brody says to cover them, so that's what we're going to do. So you take another round, and you, where's my cup? It's got stretched out a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. You want that one to be just enough. We took a smaller glass and cut the big ring out into a small ring. There we go. And you put that on top of your tart and give it a little press down. You do want to take a fork and poke a few air holes to vent the steam. And I poked a little too hard and it shut out the filling. That happens. So there you have it. So these go in the oven and bake for about 10 minutes or so until the crust is just nice and brown. So I will meet you back here in a few minutes to show you what they look like. Okay, it's been about 12-15 minutes for my tarts in the oven, and I just want to show you what they look like. I might stick them back in there just for a couple more minutes so they're a little bit more browned. But the step I forgot to let you know is that you should brush the tops of them with some butter, and that helps them brown. So you see a little bit of the filling oozing out. That's okay. You know, that's all right. It didn't hurt. It didn't go spill over. So you want this crust to be nice and brown, and when you tap it, it's a little hollow, and it's done. Like you could tell it's not a mushy crust. You don't want a mushy crust. So there. So now you have your main dish. You have the maple glazed chicken. You have your side, which was the Skillet Noodle Pizza, and you have fresh berry tarts for dessert. So I hope you all enjoy them. Have a good day. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Bye now.